Hey guys, welcome back. Two Brothers Off Script again. We got a busy week. Lots going on in the world.
It was good. Yeah, there was a lot going on.
Things that nobody's going to be proud to be witness to in this age of our history.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing we could say is that a lot of people lost their lives. And
people are upset.
People are upset. And one of the conversations I had with my wife just recently this week about this topic of the shootings and this kind of stuff was that, when one life gets lost, it matters.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just statistics. It's not just a simple issue. But that the difference between 1 and 0 is big.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And
it also isn't anyone's life matters more than someone else's. It's not black, it's not white, it's not Asian, it's not Mexican. Right. You matter as a person as much as the person next to you. Even if you don't like that person, until they've actually done something wrong and the law of the land judges them, not just a police officer making someone's life judgment, but real judgment. Proof, innocent until proven guilty type judgment. Your life matters as much as mine.
Absolutely.
And mine matters as much as yours. I'm not going to dive in front of a bullet for very many people in my life, but I would.
I think it's it's just a sobering kind of a situation. Mm-hmm. We have other things that we'll talk about tonight. It's a pretty heavy introduction.
Yeah, it's just
but it's something to acknowledge that this week
we're living in a crazy time where the media, someone's thoughts, snap judgments, how quickly news can spread.
Yeah.
If you say something and you don't mean it, or even if you mean it but your source is wrong, that's why I generally refuse to talk about some of the more political topics because I don't really pay that much attention to it.
And that has been, and we've talked about that. That's a decision that we've made for the show. Is that while we do want to talk about serious issues.
Yeah.
Some of these things where you have to go fact check, at least on today's current budget, are not in the cards.
I don't have enough time for that. But I want to bring to you guys. We want to bring to you guys what we know or feel strongly enough about to argue for a point. And this week we like to argue the point of self-control and self-discipline. When you make up your mind that something is what you want it to be, or how you have to decide how you want to be in this world, and that requires a lot of self-control. If you're not willing to think before you speak, then you're going to be in trouble. And I've had this experience as a child. I literally said something that I thought was a joke, and someone took it personally, and it was a crime. I threatened to kill somebody as a joke. Yeah. And that's a felony. So I think we've talked about that before.
Well, it's something that we've all, I think probably most people have said in a joking manner, I'm going to get you, I'm going to kill you. Obviously, the context of the relationships matter, but if somebody feels threatened, it's a big deal. And self-control, to your point, self-control is something that we all have to face in unique ways. I think for me, and we've talked about, several of our topics that we've already brought up kind of intersect with self-control.
Yeah.
For me, I've got my handy-dandy coffee right here. Because
me too this week.
Yeah.
This is a little, what's in your cup, bro? We're both drinking coffee.
We are.
You need it, and I'm not drinking booze right now.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you're off of it, you said.
I'm off the booze for now. It's something I do every year. It takes a lot of self-control, a lot of self-discipline, because I am an adult of legal drinking age. I like the taste of most beers. That's why I buy a good beer. I like my scotch, as everybody saw.
I have several comments on your scotch.
I enjoy drinking, and as I said in the beginning, it's like I don't drink to excess. I drink in excess. I drink a lot, and for me to continue to drink, a lot, a couple of beers a day at least, being a daily drinker is like, it's just not great for the health. And there's studies out there that I've heard about that say basically if you take a month off every year, it's better for your liver. You reduce the chances of cardiac arrest and stroke and all kinds of things.
Well, there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of problems with drinking from the standpoint of your health. And there's a lot of problems with eating Twinkies too.
Yeah. So do everything in moderation, but if you can't,
Well, I think on the issue of self-control, like we talked about physical fitness and weight loss. Mm-hmm. We talked about being filtered or unfiltered. We talked about even this issue of what do you want to be when you grow up requires a lot of self-control and self-discipline. We look at what does it take to, in your schooling years, pursue study, pursue education, pursue opportunities, even to fill out the paperwork. I mean, there's people I know who won't apply for a job because even they hate their job, but they won't apply for a job because they don't want to fill out the paperwork for the next job.
Yeah.
Like, life takes self-discipline if you want to do well in life. There was a sign I saw tonight driving through. It said, only in the dictionary does the word success come before the word work. Right? Everywhere else in all of life, work comes first before success. And so if you don't work at whatever it is, I think there's a Britney Spears song about that, but it's not appropriate for the channel. If you don't work, you don't get anywhere in life.
You're not going to get the helicopter.
And don't look up that Britney Spears song about working either. It's not a great song.
Or Rihanna's work song.
Actually, most female pop star songs about work are not.
Yeah.
Not necessarily channel appropriate, but I think what for you though. So you mentioned that it's hard for you from a self-control perspective to not drink.
Well, I've made it a habit to give it up every year for extended periods of time, at least a month here and there. I've done it twice this year. This is, I think, the second or third time that I've taken off more than a couple of weeks. And it's just really good for me, like, to prove to myself that I'm not a victim, of my addictive personality. Anything I do, I typically will do it as much as I think I can. Just because if you enjoy playing a video game, you're going to play a lot of it. If you enjoy drinking soda, you're going to do a lot of it. If you enjoy food, you're going to do a lot of it. Because as soon as you say that the thing that I'm doing has an emotional response, you're going to do it more or less based on how you feel. So if you feel good when you're eating a Twinkie, you're going to eat 5 Twinkies. If you feel bad after the 5th Twinkie, you'll say, man, I shouldn't have eaten 5 Twinkies. You might take a couple weeks off Twinkies, and then, they're on sale at the store again. Well, if they're cheap, I might as well buy them. So the self-control,
the justification for doing a bad thing.
It's not just the self-control to say I'm not going to open the next Twinkie. It's the self-control to say I'm not going to buy the box of Twinkies in the first place.
Even when it's cheap.
The
Costco box of Twinkies.
So if you can't stop yourself from doing one thing, even if it's in replace of something else, like that's not necessarily always a bad thing. A lot of people quit smoking, take up chewing, even though they're still bad. A lot of people who quit chewing take up chewing seeds, sunflower seeds and stuff like that.
Which I think is disgusting.
Yes.
Having worked in a lot of, like, sunflower seeds everywhere in every corner of every business I've ever worked in.
I quit smoking, but my reason for doing that was, I wanted to stay with my wife because it was a very sore subject for her. She didn't want me to die, and I didn't really want to die. I didn't think I was hurting anybody but myself, and I didn't think I would live forever anyways. But smoking a cigarette was, like, it gave me no joy to do it. It was just something I did. And at the point where I just am drinking so much that it's just like, well, I could drink a glass of water, but I got a beer in the fridge.
Do you think fatalism is the excuse for not having self-control? Like, I'm gonna
die anyway.
Yeah, I'm gonna eat a pizza.
Yeah.
Okay? That pizza is not healthy for me. I know this is true. But you know what? I'm gonna die anyway.
Yeah.
I might as well die eating the pizza. And I hear this from people,
but
right?
A pizza is basically, well, a round square meal. But
a round square meal?
Yeah, you've got your veggie, you've got your meat.
What kind of pizza are you getting that's got veggies on it?
Like a Supreme when I can.
The one with all the stuff?
With all the stuff, you know.
So here's the problem, though.
The saturated, the carb, everything.
Well,
it's all bad.
But
it tastes good.
Without diving too deep into the physiology of it, though.
Okay.
Because I'm not a doctor. But I saw some deals on, like, you have wheat in your, or complex carbohydrates in your body. It turns into sugar.
Yep.
And the sugar produces insulin, and insulin has two responses. The first response is to store fat. The second response is to stop your existing fat from burning. So every time you have carbohydrates, you are preventing existing fat from burning, and you're also storing new fat.
Right.
Anytime you have a sugar or a wheat.
Is it a cumulative process, or is it just every single time you eat it?
Instantaneous.
Okay.
The guy at the
time,
time,
a lot of the drinking beer because a lot of it's carbs.
Yeah. So the guy at the time, the documentary I watched that I really liked was called Perfect Human Diet. He just says, look, like, we've been around for a while as people, and people have been eating all kinds of things, but people have only had domesticated wheat for the last 7,000-8,000 years, and so we're not quite built for it. Right? People just aren't really good at processing wheat and sugar.
So
at least that was
what do you think is the, I mean, there's an off-topic thing, but I don't know too much about gluten, but it's in
wheat, yeah.
Wheat and corn, or not corn, but other bread products and stuff, and there's a lot of different types of gluten or whatever. But the people who have the severe gluten allergy, where they're diagnosed that if they continue to eat this thing, they're literally going to
tears them up,
bust a gut.
Yeah.
And if you can't eat the thing, what do you do instead? Well, there's alternatives, and it's just like going on a vegan diet and eating meat substitutes.
Sounds
horrible. Tastes like cardboard and garbage. I don't know what people do with that.
I know several vegetarians. I love them as people. If you're watching, I love you if you're a vegetarian. But my God.
Yeah.
Ugh.
They tasted bad.
Please consider eating meat.
That'll never happen.
No, it probably won't.
But every diet, even that probably has some self-control, because there's got to be a time in their life before they become full-on vegan or whatever that says, or they had the experience as a younger person where they were eating meat until they decided that it was cruel to animals, and that's when they
I think
slowly slipped down to the veggie only path or whatever.
But morals are relationships, personal beliefs. Those are all things that can force you to have self-control, but ultimately it's choices.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I believe that I need to be healthier in my choices. We talked about this a couple episodes ago. I believe that I need to eat more healthy food. I believe I need to exercise more. And but yet most of the time, not every time, but most of the time, when I have an opportunity to think about, all right, I have free time available to me, right? Yeah. I want to sit down and watch a TV show. I want to play a video game. I want to talk to my wife. I want to play with the kids. I want to read a book. The last thing that I ever want to do is sit down and let Jillian Michaels tell me that I need to, hustle faster.
I can't work out at home.
I can't. I can work out at home. I can work out at home when I make it fun for the kids. Like, if I can put my workout clothes on and all the kids can come in and we can all be there together in front of the TV, exercising, doing the cardio stuff. If we can all do that together, then it's an event, then it's a family time thing, then it's something we're all doing together. But from a self-control perspective, I struggle to do it. I'm tired. I don't want to do it. But I have this conflict between what I believe to do is right and what I actually want to do.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You can do the program that you participated in before, where the payoff was literally a payoff. Mm-hmm. You wrote yourself a check for
that was really awesome
for a certain amount of money, and if you were able to complete your goal, you were going to get that money.
Yeah, I did Healthy Wager, I think is what it's called. And you pay some money in, and I guess most people fail.
Right, so it's a very lucrative business.
Yeah, betting against people. Basically.
Tell your buddy, I'll give you $20, and if I can lose 20 pounds in 6 months, you have to give me back my $20 plus $10.
Right.
And so 6 months go down, and you forgot about the bet.
Right.
Gained 5 pounds. He says, "Hey, your 6 months is almost up. You're going to lose that 20 pounds." And you say, "What? Oh, crap."
Yeah, well, I didn't forget, fortunately.
You lose your 20 bucks.
I did win my money. I did win my money. And I was very happy about it, but right as soon as the stress came on, and this is, for me, this is where self-control really falls apart. When I get stressed out, especially, I don't sleep. One of the kids woke up in the middle of the night, somebody's sick, I didn't sleep well for whatever reason, I haven't slept, and then there was a disruption, right? Dinner didn't turn out, whatever it is. Well, I'm going to eat, right? And yet, when I go and I have an option of choices, I'm not like, "Hey, let me have the McSalad, please." I'm like, no.
There's no thing.
Let me have the McSalad.
The healthy salad at any fast food restaurant
is not healthy.
It's not healthy. It's like 100 calories less than the Big Mac. Go for the Big Mac. But a bag of salad for $1 at the store.
Well, you're right.
You can pour that thing and then
that'd be a lot more
some
responsible.
light vinaigrette and fill up, and it tastes good.
That sounds a lot more healthy.
Yeah. So
I normally don't do that.
Bill Burr said, I was listening to his podcast, it's a fun podcast, and he said that he was eating just a bag of salad like every day.
Really?
Yeah, like every day. It was one meal was a bag of salad. You're getting maybe a third of the calories of a normal meal. I mean, he's not a very big guy anyways, but
he used to be heavier.
He drinks some beer and stuff like that, but in his later shows, you can see him, he's pretty thin.
What do you think for you, like, where do you feel like your self-control really struggles? Is it with stress or is it something else?
No, I'm so easygoing that it generally doesn't even matter to me what's going on in the world. The things that really bum me out or whatever they don't encompass my life so much. Like, I haven't had any real serious losses or anything. The cats are all alive.
The cats.
And I don't have a girlfriend who's going to break up with me or something like that, and my kid's doing pretty good, and I just generally, I get by with zoning out and watching TV or something. So I guess the problem would be is, like, after I'm done working, and I have a pretty physical job, I'm loading boxes and moving stuff around all day by hand, and so I stay physically active, but it's just the time. I have so much time in the afternoon that's not doing constructive things, that the boredom, like, even if I'm entertained, I'm watching TV or I'm playing a video game or whatever, the boredom of I'm not moving something with my hands, or I'm not tasked to do something that takes my hands. And literally, I have to have my hands tied behind my back, because after a certain period of time, I'll just start craving some food. Now, right now, I'm in that kind of flux point where I've quit drinking 3 days ago, haven't had any, and so I used to be drinking, which took care of that hand-to-mouth thing that I had when I had smoking. I was like, all right, I'm always bringing something to my mouth, and then after I quit, I gained some weight there, and then once the drinking picked up enough, that was the thing, and it's just like I have this habit of just, my hands are busy, or I'm eating something, so it's just.
I think eating is an easy substitute for boredom.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like right now my big struggle is I feel like I have an excuse of not having enough time, right? So I didn't have enough time to exercise, or I didn't have enough time to make myself a good dinner, or I didn't have enough time to, really eat my lunch, because I'm in a rush at work, and so I need to go do more things at work, or I need to come home and work on school, or I need to come home and right now I'm helping fix the fish tank.
Right.
Fish tank fixing. A lot of F's. And
I'm sure there have been.
Yeah, there's an excuse in there, right? To not do something or not make a choice that's in line with what I believe is right. And so my own view of what's right, that's where I struggle with self-control. It's like I believe things are right and I don't do them.
Everybody knows it's right to, do the right thing, to follow the law. There's no, unfortunately, I can't blame anyone for being ignorant anymore. There is too much knowledge in the world. Yeah. And the dumbest people are watching YouTube videos and gaining knowledge. It's constantly coming in. The news broadcasts that you hear on the radio.
Smart people can watch YouTube videos too.
The dumbest people that are watching the video and still gaining the knowledge and then just spewing it back into the world like, I know something now, and then they still make dumb choices. Like, I'm making a bad choice by substituting alcohol with food.
Right.
But that goes away. I typically, after a first week or so, the craving for the alcohol goes away so much that I'm not really like diverting it all into food, and I'm actually doing other things. I drink a lot more water, and that helps. But if I don't keep myself active and I don't stay disciplined, I'm not in fear of falling off the wagon, but I'm in fear of not seeing any progress whatsoever in the weight gain or weight loss or whatever, because I'm going to keep the calories coming in. And that's biological too, I think. You just crave as many calories as you're used to. But if you can't have the discipline to get the right information, and share the right information instead of just take it from one source and give it to another source and the information's wrong, and you spread it in your influence.
I'll tell you what though, that's really hard, right? It's really hard to think about issues from position outside of your bias. Mm-hmm. To think about, we talked at the beginning of the show about how complicated these issues are right now with shootings and deaths and all these kinds of things. And we know some police officers, and to try to hear their point of view on how some of these kinds of things happen. It's so hard for people, for all of us, to think about how the other side of that equation feels. I heard the argument on the radio as I was driving today that essentially said, statistically, this is like a shooting death. If you're an unarmed person, a shooting death is not that likely by the police. And they quoted some statistics and they said, it's only 40 or 50 people a year, right? And what they're saying is that 40 or 50 people a year dying is not enough reason to have a protest. 40 or 50 people a year dying is not enough reason to have a riot. Mm-hmm. 40 or 50 people a year dying is not enough reason to have a freeway shut down. And yet at the same time, if it was my family member, if it was somebody from my circle of friends, mm-hmm. and I felt like they were unjustly, their life was ended unjustly, mm-hmm. then in my mind, absolutely, that's worth protesting about. Absolutely. The one is worth protesting. And so in my head, like the other side of the coin, from look at the statistics, it's not that big of a deal, to look, it's more than zero.
Yeah.
Right? If one grandma in a wheelchair gets tasered to death, that's too many. One, just one, yes. Right? If one person on the streets is accidentally killed, is too many. And yet, complicated situations, split-second decisions.
If you had to break it down to what the answer is, though, because everyone has their opinion right now on what the answer is, and everybody thinks that they're right, or they believe they're wrong, or they know they're wrong, and they just don't have enough information to make the right decision. I think that if you're an officer of the law and you're in fear of your life, you have the right to use lawful force to stop the aggressor. However, as a citizen, I have the same right in my own home. If I feel like there's a threat, I can pull the trigger. But it doesn't matter what the color of the skin is of the person who got killed. It never has. It's
well, historically, it has the issue.
Historically, it has. But if the person who feels victimized or the group that feels victimized decides to be really loud and really aggressive with the solution, aka protesting and rioting, and let's go kill 5 cops because that's a statement. Do you think that would have happened if other things hadn't happened? Who's acting out?
Right.
The only way that this problem gets solved is if everyone calms down.
Well,
you got to stop yelling back and forth to get an answer.
So one of the sayings that served me is, if you want people to hear you, yell, and if you want people to listen, you need to whisper.
Mm-hmm.
And so I agree that yelling at each other doesn't solve problems. From a root cause perspective, I think in general that our particular criminal justice system, which is designed to try to stop problems, right? Somebody has a problem and then they petition their local legal body and then they get a law made and then the cops have to enforce that law. At one point, those laws were segregation, right? At one point, those laws were slavery. At one point, those laws were also, prejudicial towards Native Americans, and those laws were also prejudicial towards children. Mm-hmm. And those laws also allowed for women to be battered. At one time, those laws allowed even, and this is true, right, white people to be slaves. There were white indentured servants and slaves inside the United States. Those are all true things. But we have a lot of laws now, and the reality is we have so many laws that it's very hard for anybody to know what all those laws are, and it's hard for anybody necessarily to follow all those laws. So, in terms of self-control and kind of trying to tie this all up in our last couple of minutes, it's really, we have, I think, an individual obligation to be in control of ourselves.
Yep.
And I think that if people want to try to solve this problem, one of the quotes I heard today from the police chief of Dallas, he said, if you think we have a problem, we're hiring. Right? Become involved in the problem, because it's easy for any of us to abandon ship when we see things that we don't agree with, whether that's in our own personal companies or in our relationships or in friendships. It's easy for any of us to walk away and abandon ship. What's hard is to say, I'm going to stick out and I'm going to try to make a difference where I am. One of the guys at work that I work with, he said that to one of our team members. He said, look, you're mad. I understand you're mad, but you can try to stay and try to change this and make it better. And that was a hugely impactful statement in that conversation. And the result was the employee, I think, really in that situation doubled down and recommitted to trying to make it a better place to be. Because we do all make mistakes. So that, to me, that's my solution that kind of wraps up self-control and this very, very complicated topic.
This is a tough one for everybody. And we can't always have the answer that anyone else would agree with, but
sure,
I agree that we're in a messed up place and a messed up time, and if we can come together as people, not races, then we'd be able to solve the individual situations, because that's what it is. It comes down to an individual situation in every one of these. Somebody had to pull the trigger. Mm-hmm. And if the guy who pulled the trigger did it the wrong way, he should go to jail.
Yeah.
And if someone's retaliation is to pull another trigger, they need to go to jail. Yeah. Until everyone who's willing to pull a trigger in an unlawful manner is in the system that we all hate, unfortunately. But that's the only way to keep the rest of us safe.
Right.
So, sorry we had to go a little dark on you this week, but.
It's a hard week, and certainly we want to talk about things that are happening that we're thinking about too. So, thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate it as always. Have a great week,
and we'll see you next time.